The cult of personality.
But you low-life scumbag, two-faced, narcissistic bitch. That's what I know. That's the punk I know. I need you to open up your ears and hear this. Nobody wants you here. They never wanted you here. That whole locker room's afraid to say it, not me. So get out.
The cult of personality.
But I will tell you face-to-face, man-to-man, how I feel about you. I don't hate you. I almost pity you. And I have no respect for you and what you've done since you've gotten here. Because it's not just about what happens in this ring. It's what happens when that red light turns off. What happens when you go back through the curtain, those small, quiet moments when you think no one's watching. You talk a big game about workers' rights, yeah? Well, you've shown the exact opposite since you've gotten here.
The cult of personality.
Now here you are. You have all the opportunity to prove these people right. But can you? Do you people think CM Punk can do it? I'm glad they think that now, Punk, but are they gonna feel that way in a month, 2 months, a year? I don't envy you, man.
The cult of personality.
Is there anything that you would like to address with all the stuff that has kind of unfolded in the last couple of days?
It's fucking annoying that, like, just because somebody said some stupid shit on social media, like, that's not news. I don't know. She bring it up, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. And the lawyers are like, oh my God, are you going to talk about it? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't care. Like, but now I don't want to get dragged into this dumb shit.
Yeah.
But, you know, but okay. So I could fucking unload on a lot of fucking people right now. And when I start getting dragged into this shit, it tempts me to do that. But I'm not gonna fucking sink to that level because it's fucking.
The cult of personality.
Who'd you do improv with?
I did it with Scott Colton.
Okay, so you fancy yourself a journalist. Would you say you're friends with Scott Colton?
No, I haven't talked to Scott in some time.
So you're not friends with him?
No, Scott and I do not see eye to eye.
Oh, wow. Well, that makes two of us. My point is, if you fancy yourself a journalist, even if it's for the silly world of professional wrestling, and you have journalistic integrity, people who report things, mostly that are bullshit, and slanderous lies against myself, if you are friends with somebody, you blew my spot. If you're not friends with them, I apologize.
I made it really clear in Forbes, and I just want to make it clear again. Nick,
It's not his position to make it very fucking clear. I'm trying to run a fucking business. That's where we're at right now. And I will still walk up and down this hallway and say, if you have a fucking problem with me, take it up with me. Let's fucking go.
The cult of personality.
All of a sudden, Punk says, Alvarez, you mad at me? And I was like, what? And I literally went like this around the guy's head, and I looked at Punk, and I said, I'm not mad at you. And he goes, all right. And he chomps his muffin, and he goes, I'm a little mad at you. And I'm sitting there going, what's this bloke mad at me about? I don't remember the exact quote, but he said something like, you know, I was watching a video that you did, and I'm a little upset that you were incredulous that I had gone out there and made those comments about Hangman. But I said, hold on a second, okay? I 100%, when talking about this situation, I 100% said that a lot of people in the locker room were upset with you about what you had done. But I very specifically also said that you had supporters who believed that what you did was retaliation for something that Hangman started. And he chomped his muffin and he moved on.
The cult of personality.
I'm trying to run a fucking business.
The pegs in the toy aisle are full of Hangman action figures because nobody wants to buy them.
Oh! You son of a bitch!
I'm trying to run a fucking business.
One Bill Phil. That's because I am the one true, genuine article in a business full of counterfeit bucks. One Bill Phil.
I'm trying to run a fucking business.
I mean,
I mean, damn. Oh, boy. Okay, so you all know what the deal is. CM Punk, Phil Brooks, has officially been fired from All Elite Wrestling. Tony Khan released a statement. AEW released a statement talking about his termination, and there's a lot to unpack with it. There's a lot to talk about. There was a committee that reviewed all the evidence from the altercation that happened last week at All In London, between the end of the pre-show and the beginning of the actual show, where Jack Perry, who in the pre-show had made a comment about real glass, something that an altercation that had gone on between him and Punk a couple weeks or months ago about Perry wanting to go through glass and CM Punk saying we don't do that here and all this kind of stuff. So Perry made the comment. Apparently, again, we reported on this before. The details were rumors, but the altercation was the truth. And as far as the details of it, we still don't know. Apparently, there's footage from Wembley security cams of what went on and some other stuff going on. But ultimately, after a disciplinary committee reviewed everything, Tony Khan agreed with their unanimous decision that CM Punk should be fired. And he was fired with cause, and that is important. I mean, potentially CM Punk could show up in WWE's pay-per-view tonight. If that happens, you'll probably see this after that pay-per-view happens. If it happens, I would, hey, stranger things have happened in the world of wrestling. That would be crazy, though. And you probably heard a lot of people talk about it. My thoughts on it, as I've said back when the Brawlout thing happened 1 year ago to the weekend, exactly 1 year ago, the whole thing was a mess. And I was very critical of CM Punk. I was less critical of the Elite. Some people didn't like that. And I said, here's the thing, though. CM Punk is a grown-ass man. We share the same birthday. I don't know if he's a year older or younger than I am, I think. But we are in our mid-40s. And as a man in his mid-40s, the stuff that I see him doing is, I wouldn't do it just as a grown-ass man. Like you getting into a fight with a 20-something-year-old because he wanted to cut himself up with glass. It's like, instead of going and getting in his face and in his business, it's not. No, it's like, go F around and find out. I told you what I thought about it. Go ahead and do it and just leave it alone. I'm not going to pick a fight with him or he made a comment about it on TV or whatever. Who cares? He's so thin-skinned. And it goes back to a bunch of other stuff that we've seen so far in his run in AEW. It's a damn shame, dude. It's a goddamn shame. That's all I can say. And what a waste. What a waste of potential. We don't get... I mean, as a fan, we're not going to get him and Danielson finally having that match that he didn't have in WWE properly. We thought we could get it in AEW properly. We're not going to get it in AEW. He didn't really get his proper match with Jay White that everybody wanted to see. They clashed in a 6-man here and there. We definitely weren't getting the Omega match that we wanted, and a bunch of other matches we wanted with CM Punk and AEW, which was the whole excitement about him going there. But as I chronicled, Eddie Kingston talked about it. Nobody wants you here. Then he had a problem with Colt Cabana. The Colt Cabana thing came up. Then, of course, the media scrum and talking about Hangman Page. And then, of course, the brawl with the Elite and the whole thing that followed after that. And then even in the scrum, him going after different journalists and then having to be corrected because they said things that they didn't say. Coming back, still taking shots at Hangman. Hangman ain't said nothing about CM Punk in over a year and a half. Still taking shots at people. Then now this thing with Jack Perry, it's like, even Samoa Joe got ticked off, and I can't. Can anybody blame anybody? Can you blame AEW? Can you blame Tony Khan for doing this? It makes all the sense in the world for them to terminate him. It's sad. It sucks. And Tony Khan, who was like the biggest fan of his, didn't want to do it. And what a bad look for CM Punk. What a bad look for Phil Brooks. I mean, you had a billionaire, a multi-billionaire who ran a wrestling company and specifically wanted you on the roster, brought you back out of 7.5 years out of the business to be the centerpiece of his company, and you can't even control your mouth. You can't even control yourself, that you're having all of these problems. And, I know the CM Punk sycophants, and there'll be some in the comments, and there's going to be some in everybody's comment section are going to say blah, 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 whatever. I don't give a crap right now. It's the same thing that you would say to, like, in the dating world, like, if there's a guy who says all women suck, or girls to say all men are terrible. It's like, at a certain point in time, if you have that many problems with that many people, The common denominator is you. And it might be something that you need to look at yourself and correct instead of always going, oh, everybody's coming after me. And it's this whole martyr thing. I mean, there's only one saving grace, and I'll get to that in a second. But I mean, my God, he flubbed up in WWE and walked out of there. And, you know, yes, some of it was his fault. Some of it obviously was WWE's fault. Then he takes off for 7.5 years. He comes back. He's got all these problems here. He was in the UFC. That didn't work out. He tried to do comic books. That didn't work out. He tried to do acting. That hasn't worked out. He came back to a company that was designed for him. That didn't work out. It's a fine line between his legacy being as the most controversial person in wrestling and his legacy as being somebody whose ego just got the best of him and who thought he was bigger than he actually was and couldn't work with other people. And that's not a cool thing. That's not a good thing. Personally speaking, and I'm not going to diagnose CM Punk. I'm not going to psychoanalyze CM Punk. But I will say I have lived with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. And there's a lot of stuff that I have seen and heard. I can't say that's what is going on with him, but there's a lot of things that I live with that I see and heard and seen CM Punk do that kind of make me go, I don't know. Whatever it is, something is off with the dude.
Stop it. Get some help.
There's something wrong with him. There's something wrong with the dude. I want to say it if nobody else is going to say it. Something seems to be wrong with the guy. Either he doesn't know how to get along with people, or he's got a personality dysfunction, or whatever the hell is going on. I don't know. Of course, he's got his friends in AEW, FTR, obviously, Darby Allin. A lot of people in AEW liked him. But, his antics, they screwed up MJF's big comeback, that big angle they had last year that was supposed to be the big thing for MJF. They screwed that up. Max is, of course, obviously recovered and gone on to bigger and better things. And now this weekend, this was supposed to be Ricky Stark's biggest match of his career. Because we all kind of figured that the match that was supposed to headline All Out this weekend was going to be CM Punk against Ricky Starks for the real AEW World Championship. Now that real AEW World Championship is no longer a thing. That's gone. So if you got a replica belt of it, they might be worth a lot now. That whole thing is done now. I really have to sit and I'm trying to put myself in his head and go, why would you do these things? Why do you let these things? Why is your skin so thin? You're CM Punk. Why is your skin so thin that these lines that nobody really knows nobody knew what Hangman Page was talking about worker rights. Most of the people didn't know what Jack Perry was talking about Glass. All of these things that he claims that the Young Bucks leaked to the dirt sheets. The dirt sheet people all said they didn't hear from them. As far as AEW is concerned, I have to kind of take this take on it, and let's go back and do a little bit of history. CM Punk, and those of you who saw a video I did a couple years ago about the revolution of pro wrestling from 2011 to 2019, I noted that CM Punk was the beginning of it. That pipe bomb was the beginning of this change, the sea change in wrestling, and since then, wrestling has changed since the pipe bomb, and I did track it back to the pipe bomb. And he brought this up in a Hangman Page promo that they had, the infamous promo now that they had, where he's like, he chopped down the trees that provided the lumber for him and his buddies, meaning Hangman and his buddies, to build the house that AEW is on, And there's some truth to that, to some extent. But there's another side to it, too, that I haven't really talked about, and I don't think too many people have talked about, but for 7.5 years, he was gone. Remember the pipe bomb? He didn't go to New Japan. He didn't go to Ring of Honor, like he said in the pipe bomb. He didn't go there. He just quit the business. And even though he started this spark and may have gotten some people interested in New Japan and Ring of Honor, it was the 7.5 years that he wasn't there that you had Brian Cage and Luchasaurus and Jeff Cobb and Ricochet and Penta and Phoenix and Tyre Valkyrie and a lot of other people, Rey Mysterio, doing the work in Lucha Libre wrestling and Mexican wrestling, and of course Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground, changed the business in a way. They innovated the cinematic style of wrestling, which a lot of the companies needed during the pandemic era, and Lucha Underground did have a following. Of course, we talk about the British scene, guys like Tommy N and Zack Sabre Jr. and Will Ospreay. They did the work to help, and Mustache Mountain and all those guys, they did the work to bring up the UK scene and revitalize it for a few years. All the people that were in NXT, Adam Cole, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, a bunch of people, Buddy Murphy, Buddy Matthews, all of those guys over there at one point in time, they lifted NXT. Remember the years that NXT was actually better than the main roster of WWE for a number of years. That's a testament to all of those guys that everybody knew came from the local wrestling scene or the indies or whatever. And obviously, of course, we all know, Impact Wrestling was revitalized and had its resurgence. Ring of Honor became one of the biggest wrestling companies in the country for a number of years. Again, that's thanks to guys like Adam Cole and Samoa Joe and so on and so forth. And of course, the Elite, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, Cody, Chris Jericho, all those guys contributed to New Japan Pro Wrestling, elevating it to being the second biggest wrestling company in the world for a number of years, and which laid the foundation for what eventually would become AEW, because New Japan was selling out all of those. They had those 1 hour sellouts of all those shows, sold out Madison Square Garden. All of that went into what AEW became. And AEW, yes, Phil started the thing with the pipe bomb, but for 7.5 years, all the people I just mentioned did all the work that led to AEW becoming what it was. They did it without him. He wasn't there. And I do understand the resentment from some people in AEW, especially when I think about the All In thing. So think about this, you're at All In and you hear what happened. All In show's about to start, and here's CM Punk at the beginning of the show starting another confrontation with somebody else over some petty nonsense that causes a ruckus. And now these are rumors. Again, none of this is confirmed about the altercation, but let's say that it was true that he said he was going to quit and he wasn't going to do the match, and Samoa Joe had to get in his face or whatever Samoa Joe did to get him to actually do the match. These people worked for years to get to the point where you could have a non-WWE pro wrestling company draw that many fans anywhere in the world, doesn't matter where it was, to draw and set the record for paid attendance of a single day wrestling event. That is a monumental feat. And on the precipice at the beginning of the show, here's a guy who came in after the people did all the work for the 7.5 years to get the ball rolling. He comes in after the fact and starts to throw his weight around. And now they're about to do their biggest show ever, the culmination of really 9 years of work from all of the people I mentioned and many, many more, from production, staff, crew, Court Bauer, Sinclair Broadcasting, tons of other people who went into what happened in order for AEW to be able to do that All In show. And he's gonna walk out right before the show starts. And in fact, I think the thing was that the show started, I haven't confirmed this yet, but the show started 10 minutes late because of all of this nonsense. You're about to jeopardize the show that all of these people worked all of those years to do, that Darby Allin and Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Sammy Guevara and Ricky Starks and all those guys who worked on the local wrestling scenes to try to get to this position, to have a wrestling company where they could do things their own way and be themselves. And you're about to walk out at the beginning of the biggest show in the company's history, and honestly, still until WWE tops it, which they will, the highest paid attendance show in pro wrestling history. If I'm a wrestler, if I'm one of the people that I mentioned before that did the work in Lucha Underground and in Mexico and in the UK and in New Japan and in NXT and Ring of Honor and Impact and MLW, and I came up, and a lot of the guys came up from there, and then this dude's coming in and doing. I can understand why a lot of wrestlers had enough of him at that point. And if the rumors are true that he lunged at Tony Khan, I mean, again, I don't know if that's true. That's a rumor. That's not to be taken as fact. But if that is true, again, Phil Brooks has some issues.
Stop it. Get some help.
And to the point that I brought up about the fact that those guys and girls did all that work for 7.5 years, they did it without Phil Brooks. And I think they can continue on without Phil Brooks. Would it have been nice to see Phil Brooks come in and get the Danielson match and Jay White and Kenny Omega and all those matches? Yeah. Did he do a great job? That MJF feud last year was it was a masterpiece. It was a fantastic feud. He did a great job with that. Yes, give him credit for that. But again, I got to get back to it. If you got that many people, Eddie Kingston, Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, and Renee didn't even want to talk with me. Moxley said, I didn't want to get involved with this, but somebody said this. He had a problem with CM Punk. Jack Perry, so on and so forth. Other people, and that's just the people we know. That's just name it. Dolph Ziggler's brother. Like, what? Like, really? I guess we'll know whether or not he is kind of narcissistic, depending on how he reacts to this. If he goes and blames everybody else and doesn't take any of the blame on himself for what happened in the failure of his run in AEW, if he does not say that any of it was his fault, well, you got your answer right there. As far as the future of him going to WWE, I think Seth Rollins has already answered that question a while ago. Seth Rollins said, hell no, he don't want CM Punk in WWE. Roman Reigns don't want CM Punk in WWE. And those guys, those are their 2 world champions. And, their opinions probably do carry some weight. Now, I think Endeavor's opinions and Vince McMahon's opinions and Triple H's opinions count more, but it's not like Triple H's... I can't see Triple H chomping at the bit to get CM Punk. I mean, I think the best, I would not, again, I'm 50-50 on it. I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up in WWE. I don't really think, but does WWE really need CM Punk? They're already winning. It's not like they need him to win the war. It's not like they're losing the war to AEW. They're winning right now. So you would do that if you think it's going to help win the war, but they're already winning. They don't need him. Most of the people there don't like him. The management doesn't like him. And after the track record you just showed in a company that was built around you, if you're WWE, what they might wind up doing, they might offer him something, and they might offer him like pennies on a dollar, like 50 cents on a dollar for what he was getting in AEW, to see if he might take it just to spite the AEW, but who knows? I can't read minds, so who knows what's going to happen with that, but there's possibilities. I also think the possibility could be, which probably would be a bad idea, he might go in the Hall of Fame next year at WrestleMania. You could see CM Punk go in the WWE Hall of Fame at WrestleMania next year. Now, I think that would be kind of crappy, because we know who should be front and center of the Hall of Fame next year should be Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotundo. If CM Punk comes in there, there's going to be a lot, and if he does that, there'll be a lot of people that be like, man, you're going to take the shine away from Wyndham Rotundo? That's kind of crappy too. So I don't know. There's all kinds of things that could happen from here. We don't know. This is going to be interesting to see where CM Punk winds up, if he winds up anywhere. But I mean, the long and short on it with me right now, I'm over the CM Punk thing. He really wasn't bringing anything to the table the last couple of months anyway. He always got injured. Yeah, I'm over it. It would have been fun to see him do some more stuff in AEW, but I don't know what's wrong with the dude, but he got it. I can't read his mind. I can't diagnose him, but it seems like something's off up there with him, that it got to this point, especially after Brawl Out last year. And the irony of it being 1 year to the day almost 1 year to the day of the Brawl Out incident, you've learned nothing in 1 year. And you got a second chance when many people thought you shouldn't have. But that's just my thoughts on it. I want to know what you guys think. Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Do you think it was right for AEW to fire CM Punk? What do you think is wrong? Why did it happen? Why did things go so bad with CM Punk? Do you think WWE will pick him up? And what do you think is going to happen if he doesn't go to WWE? Is his career over in wrestling? Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until next time, I will see you guys here this weekend. We got All Out. God knows that's going to be a show, because it's in Chicago. So there's going to be CM Punk chants during that entire show. I will be reviewing that show this weekend. And of course, we got the WWE pay-per-view coming up tonight, which I will be doing a review of as well. And we have a little New Japan news that I want to get to probably sometime next week. And until then, I'll see you guys here for more news, rumors, and commentary on the Rant and Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.